Hi, welcome. I am Renee Coster, a learning experience designer and strategist. And this is Learning Experience Design for Changemakers. This show is for the coaches, educators, and nonprofit leaders who already have something out there, a course, membership, program, workshop series, and you know it can be better. Maybe something feels off. Maybe engagement has dropped. Maybe you built it from your expertise and it's full of great content, but it's not doing what you had hoped it would do for your people. In each episode, we dig into the design decisions that turn a learning experience from something people consume into something that actually changes how they think and what they do. There's no hustle, no shortcuts. We put in the work at the front end so it's better for you and your learners in the end. I'm glad you're here. Let's get into it. This week, I want to tell you about the time I stood in front of the Big Cat exhibit at the Philadelphia Zoo and had a full on curriculum design realization. Stay with me. This one is going to change how you think about engagement. So, I was at the Philadelphia Zoo with my family, and if you have never been there, it is worth the trip. It's genuinely a great place. And the Big Cat area is part of something called Zoo 360, which is exactly what it sounds like. This is amazing. Zoo 360 is a network of walkways and trails that runs through different parts of the zoo. Some sections are up in the air and some are more along the ground. It's designed so that different animals can actually move through the zoo, not just occupy one fixed habitat. Most often it's the smaller primates or the tigers. The day we were there, it was one of the tigers who was out roaming the trail, just moving, taking up space, exploring. When we ate lunch that day, we were right across from the Big Cat exhibit, and it had indoor seating, floor to ceiling windows. And the reason why was because going right past those windows was the part of the Zoo 360. So while we were eating lunch, one of the tigers was walking through. So we could see him walking around, exploring, sniffing. Really cool thing was that we found out later a someone who had worked with the tiger previously was there visiting, and the tiger recognized her, and so we got to witness that interaction. Not something we would ever have seen had the zoo not had this through Zoo 360 in place. So it was really amazing for us to see, but for that person to be able to have that experience with the tiger after not seeing him for a while, I'm sure that was extremely special. Anyway, back to the story, the lesson. So we got to watch the tiger as we ate. I am not going to pretend I was taking notes. I was just watching, but something was working on me that whole time. And once we got into the Big Cat exhibit itself, it really started to surface. So when you walk into the Big Cat exhibit at the Philly Zoo, you're not walking into a display. You step into a space that is specifically built to feel separate from the rest of the zoo. You're led through observation spaces designed to take you away from the rest of the zoo. The physical structures, the plants, all intentionally placed. About midpoint, you enter a large room. And there are three huge screens. The center one is enormous. It's nearly the size of the room. It fills your whole field of vision. And then there's a row of benches for you to sit and watch. And then the screen to the right and left are smaller, and they are placed inside additional displays to make it look more like the African savanna. So the one on the right is actually sitting inside of a tent, complete with different kinds of equipment and framing you would actually see on the safari. The whole thing is layered. I've never talked to anyone at the zoo about this exhibit, but just by being there and knowing what I know from a learning designer perspective, I can tell that everything in that exhibit, especially this room, was 100% intentional. They wanted to take you away from the rest of the zoo and immerse you in that experience of seeing those African savanna animals as large and up close as possible without physically being there on the savanna. The video that's playing on all three screens, it's real footage. My kids, and if you've got kids, they don't always stop and watch these things, but mine do. When this goes up on the screen and we walk through that, no matter how many times, at least one of them will be like, "Hey, can we stop and watch?" It doesn't matter how many times we've seen it. They are so focused and engaged in this exhibit. And when we plan to go back to the zoo, hey, can we do the big cat exhibit first? That's always the first thing they want to see. And on this visit, it clicked. The zoo did not just build a display, they built an environment. And when they let the animals move through it on the trails that run past the places where you eat lunch, through the air above you, the spaces that you don't expect to see zoo animals, the tiger was not behind a label that just described the tiger. He was there doing the things a tiger does, 10 feet away from your sandwich. They created conditions for a real experience. And it's the real experiences that produce a real reaction and the deep learning that is going to stick with you. Take a moment and compare that to a different kind of exhibit, one that you've almost certainly seen. Beautiful signage, detailed information, wonderful content, photos, facts about behaviors, habitats, all carefully written and nicely designed, correct information. But what happens is you stop and read maybe 20% of it, and then you move on to see the actual animals or the next exhibit. It's not the information that's the problem. It's just we are consuming so much information, it needs to be delivered in a different way. The one with the signs, it hands you the facts, but this big cat exhibit at the Philly Zoo, it puts you inside of a new and exciting experience and trusts that you are going to have a response and you are going to take something away from it. So the question that I asked myself while we were there was, how can we translate this physical space, this experience of immersive learning, and to more formalized learning that we would see in maybe a business training or the online learning space, conference talks? How can that purposeful engagement, that immersive learning, be translated into these other environments that are usually more passive for the student? How can we move from strolling past signs to feeling like you're part of the exhibit? That's what we're going to start right now. First, I need you to be honest with yourself for a second. Think about the last module you created, or maybe the last lesson you took, the last one you recorded. How much of it was you delivering information? Even great, valuable, well-organized information. And how much of it was designed to put your student inside an experience? I really want you to do this. So go ahead and hit pause, take a couple of minutes and write down your thoughts, then come back. Okay, welcome back. How did it go? A video lesson with solid content is the information panel. It's valuable, often necessary. And if it's all you have, your learners are going to half watch it. Maybe take a note and move on without anything really changing for them. Here's the thing: engagement is not a decoration. It is not a quiz bolted on at the end or a let me know what you think in the comments prompt that nobody responds to. Purposeful engagement is something different. It is designed to make the learner interact with the material in a way that actually changes how they think or how they act. The question is not, how do I make this more interesting? That's going to lead you into chasing gimmicks. The right question is, what do I want my learner to do with this information And how do I design that into the experience before they ever hit play? Let me give you some concrete examples because this is where it's going to get practical. A reflection prompt that requires the learner to apply the concept to their specific situation. Not a generic question like, what did you notice? But something like, look at your last module. Where does your learner make contact with the material? Not just receive it. Write that down. That's a different kind of question, and it has an action attached to it. It requires your listener, your watcher, your student to bring their actual work into the room. It's it's a small action that's built into the lesson itself. It's not assigned at home as homework at the end where it'll sit on a to-do list and never happen. It's something they can do in the next 5 minutes inside the learning experience while the material is active. And did you pick up on how I've already demonstrated this within this episode? Here's your bonus tip. If you're pre-recording, build in a pause this recording, do X, and then come back right into the script. It's one of my absolute favorite moves for a pre-recording because it gives the listener permission to take a break, do the thing, and come back. So here's a moment of decision. Here's two approaches to this problem. Which one fits your context and why? You're not just presenting information, you are asking them to make a judgment call with it. That judgment call is the engagement. The goal is not completion. It's not getting someone to the end of your module or to the bottom of your slide deck. The goal is contact. The student's mind making real contact with the material. That's the moment where something shifts. So this is something that I'm going to assume the Zoo 360 team and the people at the Philly Zoo understood, because that's why a tiger is allowed to roam a trail that runs past the lunch tables. Not because it was necessary for people to want to go to the zoo or to learn about the tigers, but because it changed what it felt like to be there. And when you can evoke a feeling or a memory or some sort of relation to the material, that's when something real can happen. And we can do that in our online courses, in our business trainings, in the information we present to people at conferences. Maybe we're not going to have 3 screens and a trail through the air, but we can make intentional design choices that invite our learners to do something with what we're teaching. So here's your engagement audit. It's going to take about 10 minutes. Open that last module, just one. Maybe it's the same one that you already looked at and hit pause on. Go through it the way your student would. Go through it the way your trainee would. And ask yourself, where do my people make contact with this material? Not where do they receive it? Where do they actually do something with it? If the answer is nowhere, that's not a failure. That's just your starting point. That's something to build on. You now know exactly what to design next. And if you want help with a thinking partner for that audit, someone to look at what you have and help you find where the purposeful engagement can go up, I'm in the show notes. Let's look at it together.